Hey, sports fans, PB&Z Sports Chaos. Guess what? The All-Star game is over. We did not win an ESPY this past week on the ESPN ESPY Awards. NFL training camp starts this week. We can't wait. And we're going to talk the worst division in football, the NFC North. Plus, we got a special guest for a new segment, Fantasy in 5. PB will tell you about that momentarily. First, I got to have a quick shout out, PB. Super Diana Taurasi, the #1 pick in the WNBA draft in 2002 and 2004. They play their last game against each other tonight as Sue Bird is retiring at the end of this year. Congratulations. Those two girls, women, are unbelievable players. By the way, speaking of fantasy, we're going to talk about that, but another fantasy going on right now in baseball, the Mariners are going to play for their 50th game in a row. I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless at this point in time. Speaking of streaks, the AL All-Star team in a ho-hum game won their 9th straight. I can't believe the AL is that dominant, but they are. All right, PB, I got 2 little fun facts for you about money. Kirby Smart is now the highest paid coach in college football, $112 million, more than Saban. Worth it?
How long is that contract over?
It's 10 years, $112 million, so we averaged 11.2.
Wow. It's a lot for a football coach, man. I guess you got to look at it as, is it bringing enough money into the school? Is it increasing the program? Is it actually increasing recruiting? Are they bringing in players? Are they going to be good? Are they going to,
I don't know. One title? Imagine Lincoln Riley wins at USC, what they'll give him. Hey, speaking of outrageous contracts, maybe, I don't know, what's your thoughts on this? Kyler Murray is now the 2nd highest player in average annual salary at around $46 million with the extension he just signed with the Cardinals. Your thoughts?
I think teams are just dumping too much money too early into these players. I mean, you put yourself in cap jail, basically, for a while when that happens. I mean,
look at Green Bay, right?
Right. Look what San Francisco is dealing with right now. They can't work a deal with Debo. They got to figure out what to do with Jimmy G because he's getting paid. I mean, it just puts you in cap hell, in cap jail. I mean, you can't figure out, you don't have a long-term plan. One guy like Kyler Murray is not going to make that team if you don't put pieces around him,
Yeah. Speaking of quarterbacks, Madden came out and they made TB12, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers the #1 and #2 highest rated quarterbacks this year. Speaking of guys that sucked the salary cap dry, Aaron Rodgers. Do you agree with those ratings?
No. They probably, that's how they rate him, as far as they perform in the Madden game. But, I mean, you can't put Brady as the #1 quarterback in the NFL right now at 45 years old. You just can't. I mean, he'll put up some numbers. He'll have a good season. He'll make right decisions. He'll make the throws when he needs to make them. But there's quarterbacks in this league right now that are better than Brady.
Well, I had one thing before we go on to the NFC North. One thing I heard today was, do you want a quarterback that's the best leader in football, which means W's, or do you want a quarterback that puts up the most stats in fantasy?
Right. That's a good point. That's a great point. And
I'm taking Brady.
I mean, Brady will be Brady on the former is right there, but even on the latter, I mean, he's still definitely a top 10, if not potentially a top 5 fantasy quarterback too. So,
without a doubt. I mean, but to your point, he's not #1 in your book. So, but I'll take him. I'll take him if I want to win a game.
Yeah, and I guess that's probably because of the rushing yards. I mean, a lot of these other quarterbacks, are going to go out and get 40, 50, 60, 70 yards like a Josh Allen a game, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, those guys can all run the football. So,
and Rodgers can run a little bit as well. I mean, he's always been a pretty good runner. He doesn't run a lot, but when he does, right?
Yep. Jalen Hurts, another one that can.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Speaking of Rodgers, let's talk about his division. I think this is the worst division in football by far, other than Green Bay, maybe Minnesota, but they got Kirk Cousins, the quarterback. So let's talk about him. Let's start with Green Bay. Let's do our divisional rundown, game by game schedule. What do you think for Green Bay?
Well, are we going to do our recap from last year first?
Oh, yes. I almost forgot again. Sorry. Tell us about how we did last year, because we're pretty good at this stuff.
Yeah. Actually, you nailed Green Bay last year. You had them at 13-4. The over/under on that was 11. So you would have won if you listened to Z. I had them with that tough schedule, finishing 9-8. So for me, I was pretty off on that one. Minnesota, you had them at 9-8. I had them at 12-5. I was high in Minnesota. And the under over on that team, on that game, for that team last year was 8.5. And guess what? We told you both to go over because Z had them 9-8. I had them 12-5. They finished 8-9. They actually finished under on their under over, but Z was only off by a game, so not bad there. Detroit, we both had exact same record, 3-14. Under over on them was 5. So you would have cleaned house if you bet the under on this one. They finished 3-13-1. They had that one random tie against the Steelers.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. So we were pretty much had that one. And then for Chicago, you were a little bit higher on them than me. You had them at 9-8. I had them at 7-10. Interestingly enough, the under over was 7.5. So if you listen to Z, bet the over, you would have lost. If you listen to PB and bet the under, you would have won because they ended up 6-11.
Okay.
So, but still,
All
we were right on track there. So good. Let's go into this year.
All right. Let's talk about Green Bay. What do you think here?
All right. So starting with Green Bay, I think they have a good team. And just because they lost Devontae Adams does not mean that this team's going to fall apart necessarily. At the same time, is Allen Lazard a number one receiver? He's the wide receiver 1 right now in Green Bay. I know they drafted Watson, Christian Watson. We'll see what he's capable of doing. But I'm really looking forward to what Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon can do as a tandem in that backfield, because those two guys could end up being in the top 3 in receptions on that team this year. Potentially if Aaron Rodgers really starts to rely on them. So I like that. I also think Jair Alexander is out to prove that he's one of the best corners in this league. He can help shut down some games. So Green Bay's Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. I mean, this team, I still got him at 12-5. By the way, the under
Sammy
over
Watkins,
on him 11.
Okay.
And 11.5, depending where you look. So I got him at 12-5, just going over that.
By the way, Sammy Watkins is a sneaky good pickup for them.
Yeah, we'll see. He's injury prone, but we'll see.
I mean, he just has to put in 7 or 8 good games for them, and there you go, right? I'm with you. I got him here's my ceiling. The ceiling's 13-4. I think their losses are Tampa Bay because it's at Tampa Bay, at the Bills. They split with the Vikings, and I think they lose the game at home to the Rams. But after that, I mean, 7 of their toughest games of the whole season are at home. They've got Dallas, Tennessee, Philly, New England all at home, and they go to Miami on Christmas. This team is no worse than 12-5 in my opinion, so I get them at 12-5.
All right, we're right there at the same.
Yeah. All right, let's talk Minnesota.
Yeah,
this is the best. This is the best division in the offense. The best offense in the division? Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook, and
Adam Thielen. I mean, that's the best receiving
and you got
duo.
Thielen. Yeah, I would agree with you. I would agree with you there. I think this team's got a pretty balanced schedule. They seem like they don't really have stretches necessarily. It seems like they get a win, a loss, a win, a loss. This team's going to hang around 500 until they hit weeks 11 to 16. Then they have 5 out of 6 games at home. And that only one road game in that stretch is Detroit. So they got Dallas, New England, the Jets all at home. Then they go to Detroit and come back against Indy and the Giants. If they can go 4-2, I'm sorry, in that 6-game stretch, which I think they're capable of, then they're at 10-17. If they only end up going 3-3 or even 2-4 in that stretch, then they're hovering right around 500 on the season. But I think they can go 5-2 in that stretch. If Dalvin Cook stays healthy, Justin Jefferson's healthy, I think this team can do it. So I have them at 10-7.
Whoa.
Flirting with a playoff spot.
My ceiling for them is 11-6. I definitely think they lose at Philly, at Buffalo. They lose to Colts. They lose at New Orleans. They lose to your home team, Miami. And of course, they split with Green Bay. The games that are going to be the toss-up for them is at Washington, because they get a good defense. Dallas at home. The Pats, who I think will give them more of a challenge than we think. And the Cards as well with that multi-millionaire Kyler Murray. So I think their floor, believe it or not, is 7-10, but I got them going 9-8.
You got them going 9-8?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So only off by a game there.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Let's talk Chicago, because I know you would probably want to put Detroit ahead of them. You think Chicago's absolutely god awful. I don't know, but what do you think about Chicago?
Yeah, I'm not sold on their whole game plan, their coaching. Justin Fields is unproven. I think he could be probably the worst quarterback in that draft class. And he'll
You're
be
only
out.
saying that because he went to Ohio State.
And he went out to he's out to prove that this year. Now Mooney, like when I saw him last year, obviously A-Rob. I don't know if he was playing with an injury. What was going on with A-Rob last year? He's out of there now. He's with the Rams. So that elevates Mooney to the number one guy. They picked up Byron Pringle from Kansas City as their number two guy now. They don't really have a lot of weapons. David Montgomery is a formidable back. He's solid.
I'll go on a limb. I'll say they have no skill position at all.
Well, I was going to say they don't have a lot of weapons, and
Right.
their defense is okay. I got this team at 4-13. Sorry, they're over 6.5 right now in Vegas. I say you go all day on the under on that because they would have to win 7 games for you to lose that bet and be a 7-10 team. I don't think they're a 7-10 team.
I'm concerned they could be 2-15. I mean, the games they had. Here's the games that are coin flip for me. They play at the Giants, home against Washington, at Atlanta. They're going to split with Detroit, in my opinion, at the Jets. So those are the games that are going to set the difference for them because they've got a minimum of 9 losses on their schedule, minimum 9 losses with the other games they got to play. So for me, it's can they be 2-15? I think they go 4-13.
All right. Okay, so you got them 4-13. I got them 4-13.
Yeah.
So we're exact on Green Bay, exact on Detroit. Chicago, and we're only 1 game off on Minnesota. So let's see what we got with Detroit then.
Another god awful team. Go ahead, tell me your prognosis on Detroit.
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about Jared Goff. But that being said, I think
he's 1 step above Carson Wentz, isn't he?
Right. Yeah, officially, yes, I'll give you that. I will give you that for sure. But I do tell you, I like some of their offensive weapons. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. He had a good year last year. I think he's gonna be the wide receiver 1 there this year. I like their draft pick, Jameson Williams, number 12 overall out of Bama, to be a wide receiver 2 for that team. And DeAndre Swift, when you combine his running ability and his pass catching ability, he is a top 5 running back, I think, potentially in this league. So I do like their offensive weapons. Obviously, last year they took Penei Sewell, who fell to them because the Dolphins drafted Waddle and the Bengals drafted Jamar Chase, and everyone was like, how far is Penei going to fall? Because people had him going number 3, maybe.
Right.
And the Lions ended up getting him, I think, around 6 or 7. So the fact that they have those people on offense right now, I think they can go out and win some games. So I got Detroit finishing 7-10 this year. They will finish ahead of the Bears.
You know, it's funny. That's my ceiling for them. They have definitely 10 losses automatically in their schedule. So the games that are going to decide whether or not they're 7-10 or 2-15 are home against Seattle, Washington, Jags, and Giants. Then they play at the Jets. So there you go. Those are the 5 games that are going to be the difference in their schedule. But they got 10 losses, but possibly. I still say they go 2-15. 3-14. I'm sorry, 3-14.
14 for the Lions. All right. I'm going to go 7-10.
All right, so listen, we're going to talk our Fantasy in 5. We got a special guest this week. PB, tell us about Fantasy in 5.
Oh, Fantasy in 5. So it's a new segment we're going to have on the show. Hopefully we'll have it every week. We have to book the master right now that's joining us, Mr. John Hazelnut over there. So hopefully his schedule opens up enough for us to be on the show weekly. But we're going to do a segment called Fantasy in 5. So we're going to give you 5 minutes of fantasy talk, and we're going to focus in on key aspects of fantasy football. And obviously, draft's going to be coming up probably in about 4 weeks for most people as you move through the latter part of August. So this week, welcome. First of all, welcome, Hazelnut.
Thank you. Thank you.
So this week, we're going to talk about 2 players in particular because they're very interesting where they are right now, sitting in most mock drafts and draft boards and rankings.
Hey, PB. Can I ask a quick question? So as fans know out there, Z is not a big fantasy fan. I don't play in a single just a survivor fantasy, the real fantasy. So I got a question for you, gentlemen. Here's the question. Let's just say the Dolphins are your favorite team, PB, and they're playing the Bills late in the season, which I think is going to happen this year, and it's fantasy playoff team. Your Dolphins are trailing the Bills by 1 game in the division. Your wide receiver number 1 on your fantasy PB is Stephon Diggs. Your QB1 happens to be Josh Allen. Ooh, they both play for the Bills. Huh. All right. Diggs is having a great game right now. He's got like 200 yards, 12 catches, 2 TDs. Josh has got like 3 TDs, almost 300 yards passing. It's now 4th and 1. Buffalo has the ball on the goal line. Are you rooting for Josh and Stephon to make a play to win the game, or are you rooting for your home team?
Well, first let's set the record straight here. The Dolphins aren't my home team. I have season tickets. I go to
Thank
when I
you.
live down here. I'm still a
Hey, man,
Pats guy.
you live in Miami.
Check the hat.
You got season tickets.
I still work for the Pats, but bottom line is it's tough. It is tough. I mean, I love the Pats. I always want the Pats to win their games, but it's like
Well,
a
go back
great.
to the question. What
it's
are
a
you
good-
rooting for?
it's
Are
a
you
good
rooting for
consolation.
your star play, your fantasy players a
All right.
scorer?
All right, I'll answer the question. I take a lot of pride in my fantasy teams. It's like that's my team. So the Pats aren't my team. The Dolphins aren't my team because I don't own them. They don't pay me. They don't do anything. My fantasy team is my team. I own it. I paid for it. And if my team does well, I get paid for it. So for that reason, I'm always rooting for fantasy. But one way or the other, it's a consolation. So if I don't get it on the fantasy side, but the Pats win, I'm like, okay, that's a good consolation. I'll take that loss. That's how I feel
All right.
about it.
Silver lining. It is a silver lining. That's
Yes.
and you know what the beautiful thing about this is, Russ? Why not just draft the people that you like from your own team? Makes it a little more fun when they do win.
Well, if you
you're
can,
not
right?
you're
If
not
you
in that
can.
predicament. Yeah.
If you're
But
lucky
again-
enough to be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I agree.
it is a silver lining. You're gonna win. You're gonna win and lose both ways. So might as well have that come out either way.
Or
Exactly.
you just don't play fantasy like me and you just root for your home team or your
Or
favorite
you get
team.
in like 10
Obviously, I
leagues
don't root
like
for my
me.
favorite team.
Do
I
it.
mean, I don't root for my home team.
All right. So, anyways, let's get to our fantasy in 5. Now
Go
that
ahead.
Z took up almost all the 5, so we got a new reset on the clock. So I want to talk about 2 guys who are right now on draft boards as the wide receiver, probably mid 40s. We're looking at it's Alan Lazard and Russell Gage. These guys, when you're in mid 40s in your position, right? In most leagues, you can start 2, probably 3 wide receivers, which takes you in a 12-team league down to wide receiver 36. So when you're in the mid 40s, you're barely a bench. You're barely the first guy off the bench. You're like a wide receiver 4 at best, depending on what else you can do in flex. Now, in an ADP of around over 100, both of them, that puts you in the 9th round of the draft in 12-team drafts. That seems kind of late to me for a wide receiver 1 on a team like Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, and on a team with Tom Brady when you know Mike Evans is going to draw double coverage and Chris Godwin, and you got Russell Gage in there as the number 3 guy who could emerge as the number 2 guy in Tampa Bay. So with that in mind, Hazelnut, what are your thoughts about these 2 guys in fantasy?
All right. So I think this is a classic example of the devil you know versus the devil you don't. So Al Lazard's entire career has been in Green Bay. He's been the guy that's always done the dirty work, and now he's going to get his opportunity, which is what Aaron Rodgers said weeks ago. And so on the surface, it looks like a golden opportunity. You had one of the 2 key things happen. You had vacated targets by Devontae Adams and MBS. They had 224 targets and nearly 2,000 receiving yards between these 2 guys. That's about 49% share of those passing yards. Those are gone. So now you have to ask, where's it going? And from all the talks, it's Alan Lazard. He's the guy that's going to go fit right in. He's got big size, and now he's going to be the de facto number 1. But the problem here is you can't get so thrilled about this opportunity because there are guys, I believe, that are better suited for catching the ball. I think the running back duos of Jones are going to get it more. I think Dillon's going to get it. Robert Tunyon's going to be coming back, and you have Christian Watson.
Yeah.
I know he came out of a small school, but if you actually look at him, he has an eerie similarity to Jordy Nelson with the precision routes. And just watch how he runs it. And that's a guy. That's a guy I think that will actually. It's the devil you know. You know what you get from Alan Lazard. I mean, he had his biggest breakout season last year, but the targets aren't earth-shattering, and this is the reason why he's falling where he is. So I don't think the stats really ever panned out in those 3 years. Now, could that be Davante Adams just, being the best wide receiver, getting everything? Sure. But you tell me, PB, what do you think about that piece there? Because you have to look at the opportunity and the cracks in this opportunity.
Yeah, no, those are great points. And we even mentioned earlier, because we did the NFC North on this show. We talked about Green Bay and the loss of Davante Adams and
Right.
how is Rodgers going to do that? And we talked about that running back duo. I mean, it's possible that one of those two guys could end up being the leading receiver on this team, right? Depending on how things shake out. But I agree with you. It's the unknown of what Watson's capable of in that offense to really be able to determine what's going to happen. But I can tell you, with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, any weapon in that offense becomes viable to me.
I don't think this is, if you're looking between two players, you pick Gage, and I'll tell you a reason why.
Okay, let's move on to
Gage. I'm not moving there yet, but July 3rd, Green Bay signed Lazard for a 1-year deal. Now, as a smart dynasty owner, if you see some value in something, you're going to try to get that person locked up. No different if you're the owner of the Green Bay Packers and you can sign this guy. I mean, if this guy blows up, you could have him for years underneath a cheap contract, and they signed for underneath $4 million for a 1-year contract when you just unloaded a humongous contract with Davante Adams. I don't think by that signing on July 3rd that they're all convinced that this guy is the guy. So money speaks, you follow the money, and it's just not there. He's not your guy. But I'll tell you why Russell Gage is. The GOAT. Recruit him. Tom Brady. He brings you in under the swing like Antonio Brown. You'll perform. He's going to make sure you get the ball. He doesn't want to be wrong. No one does. No one wants to look like a hypocrite. I recruited this guy and he sucks. Nah, you don't want that. He's going to make sure it works out. Number two, he's got crazy opportunity. Godwin's out for the next 6 weeks, rehabbing that injury. And who knows when he comes back if he's going to be up to par and ready to go. So it could be like 7, 8, 9 weeks before he's feeling good. Everyone's body's a little bit different, and you can't argue with it if it's hurting. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity, minimum of 6 weeks. You have Mike Evans, who is going to be getting the double coverage. I do agree with that. Leonard Fournette, man, I don't know if you just saw it, but he just got cracked down for having a lot of food. He's overweight and all that good stuff. And he's a catchable guy, but man, if those pounds add up, they do slow you down. They add a pair of brakes on you. So when you have this guy come in, I think it's a wonderful opportunity, but the cracks in the deal. I don't think Gronk is staying retired. I think he will come back. No. I think he'll come back not immediately, but mid-season to the end of the season. He comes back.
Yeah.
He comes back. Godwin comes back and he's healthy. And we're looking into our forecast and our crystal ball here, and you see Mike Evans back there. Gage might not even be the third wheel. He could be the fourth wheel. So that's a very dangerous thing. But if you look at it, I like stats. They tell something. He has had a tremendous amount of targets over his career, and that's always added up to me. And he has opportunity. Now you're going to have to go throwing at him with actually great protection where Matt Ryan didn't. So I think you're going to see some really great performance. I think the biggest question mark for me, are those guys coming back or not going to be crowding the target space. But aside from that, I think he's in a prime position. He should be number one.
I'll just add, Mel Kiper had Russell Gage much higher on his draft board when he was drafted than he did Lazard. I mean, like 100 times higher. So physically, he's a better receiver.
I think if you're in a redraft league, which you're drafted each year, I would be willing to, if you're feeling pretty good, and every draft's different, but you could go up to the 7th round for me for Gage, just on his performance.
Okay.
You could.
So you got Gage.
You could reach 7? On him.
You could reach Lazard at 9.
I could even see Lazard falling back to 10 for me.
Okay.
And that's a 3-round gap. That's how strong I feel about Gage.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right. Good. Well, hey, I know
Oh.
we're coming up on time here. We have Hazelnut. Thank you for our inaugural Fantasy in 5. And look for more fantasy advice as we go through the weeks here leading up until start of the season.
Yes,
Yes,
very,
that's-
very intuitive. Thank you very much. We're gonna have to replace PB with you.
Yeah. no one can replace that smile.
No,
right.
that's true.
All right,
Thank you,
gents.
man.
Thank
All
you.
right.
See ya.
All right, that was a good segment, PB. Looking forward to the next Fantasy in 5. Next week, take us higher up on the tote board, though.
All right. Hey, you want to start off light, something fun, all right? We'll
Yeah.
get there.
I like the Gage pick, though. If you ask me, I'm not doing fantasy, but I would take Gage over Lazard all day long.
All right. There we go.
All right, man. All right, we'll talk next week. Have a good one.
All right. See you, man.